hear us, Cameron? Check. Maybe, maybe not. Oh, that's weird. Let's see. Silent. Oh, no, they can hear us. All right, there you go. What's up, Coach Kevin?
Hello.
All right. Happy Monday. How was your weekend?
It was okay.
Just okay?
It was okay.
Why wasn't it absolutely phenomenal?
That would be a special weekend.
Every weekend is special.
Every weekend.
When you're living the dream, like you are.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
The American dream? Or like, what's that movie?
American Nightmare?
on Elm Street?
Nightmare on Elm Street? That was a great movie. Did you ever see that movie?
I think so.
That movie scared the living bejesus out of me when I was a kid. That, and that was like, there was the original Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm. Those with Freddie Voorhees?
No, there's Freddy Krueger and then there's like Michael Voorhees, I think.
Oh yeah, Freddy Krueger with Michael Voorhees.
Come on, don't mix them up.
Sorry.
I don't know, do they still have slasher films? I guess they kind of do. I mean, they had, what was the one that they had where, Hostel, that was one, right? Where they kidnap and torture the Americans when they go to Bulgaria. What was the one where what was it called? There was one where they go, and there are these like attractive young ladies who drug them, and then they wind up in some like warehouse where there's like this like torture artist or something. Forget that
Isn't
one.
that Hostel?
Is that Hostel? Maybe.
It's Hostel.
Well, maybe I'm mixing them up.
I've never
There's
seen
a couple
Hostel.
other ones.
I don't know. I haven't seen Hostel.
I know. I mean, I can't watch that stuff.
Yeah, I don't think they have slasher movies anymore.
Like slashers, like bad guy.
Yeah. I feel like if you want to watch someone get stabbed, you could just go online.
I mean, there was what was the one with was it Scream? Scream was kind of like the end of it because they kind of made fun of it, and then but at the same time they were doing it right. It was like hyper self-aware slasher movie.
Yeah. Have you seen the one about the two rednecks who like accidentally start finding themselves like basically in a horror movie, but they're mistaken to be the villains? And it's
No, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Everyone else thinks that they're the villains.
Yeah.
Because
it's
they're
like
the two rednecks.
two rednecks just
It's
like
supposed to
having
be
a
like-
vacation, like trying to get away, and these kids just like keep Final Destinationing themselves all over their property. It's pretty funny. I like it a lot.
I never saw Final Destination. What is the premise of that?
Final Destination is about the inevitability of fate, and
It's like if you avoid it, it's still gonna. There's like some other crazy thing's gonna happen to you to catch up to you.
the idea that like death has a ledger, and
If you're on it, you can't avoid it.
he's owed
He's owed.
his whatever souls. Pretty funny movie. Not funny.
Funny?
Interesting
Is it
premise.
funny? Is it like
It's
humorous?
kind of funny. I don't know if it's humorous, but like
Like how the people die? Are they
It's
like
just-
really bizarre ways
yeah,
of
it's
dying?
like really ridiculous. It's like a combination of like Scream and a Rube Goldberg machine. You know, like it's usually it's a multi-step, like coincidental. Like this thing hits this thing, and then a toaster falls in the oven, and the cat gets scared, runs over here, and then like
Oh, is
causes
it?
a car
This
wreck.
just happens again and again throughout the movie, and,
Well,
and people die.
Like, it's not like a continuous flow of
That would be cool.
happenstance, but it's like I think at one point they're crossing the train tracks, and then the train goes by, hits a sharp piece of metal that like goes into the person's head, like just unlikely things.
And are they actively trying to cheat death?
No, one kid had a premonition, and then it was like, don't get on the plane, and then he freaked out, and then they didn't get on the plane, and the plane exploded.
And he was supposed to be on the plane,
They were all supposed to be on the plane.
but none of them died.
None of them.
So then
died,
the rest of the movie is them dying in bizarre ways so that death catches up with them.
I think so.
And is Is there any explanation of why why you have a premonition that would allow you to cheat death in the first place? Is somebody actually trying to cheat death?
I don't think the first cheating of death was like intentional. Like he didn't like sit down,
like if you know you were gonna die, right? If
Well,
someone
he
said,
freaked out.
if some
He was
like some spiritual being came down, like
yeah,
some,
yeah,
and
that's
said,
basically what
Kevin,
happened. He freaked out.
Rich, you're gonna die, and it's gonna be this, this, and this.
Yeah.
That's your time. Make your peace.
Yeah.
And then you're like, no, I'm gonna make a break for it, and you run away. And they're like, no, it doesn't work like that. Now we got to do some crazy other stuff to make
Yeah.
sure that you die. Did they explain it like that?
I forget.
If there's no scheme or anything.
I don't think death is personified in anything
Oh,
with
okay.
like a conceivable will, except like he wants him dead, kind of. Whoever.
So there is no actual like person
It's not like
or personification.
yeah, it's not like a gypsy curse or something where like someone got mad at them and then
Okay.
they're dealing with something. But
Because that would be cool if it was like, you know you're gonna die. Somebody predicts you're gonna die, and then you make a deal with them, right? And then you try to renege on the deal, and now they've summoned some sort of power to like
did you ever
take vengeance on you.
did you ever read Thinner by Stephen King?
Dinner. I remember that. That was when it was Richard Bachman. So I was like, it can't be that good if he put it out on another name. No, I never watched. I never read it.
I think that was the premise. It's like this fat guy gets cursed after running over his this gypsy's wife or something.
Whoops.
And
Don't run over the gypsy's wife.
yeah, and
I got pick on gypsies.
I think well
Anyway.
I don't know. So yeah, gypsy curse, and then he just like starts losing weight, and then stuff happens, and then he tries to go in and like make a deal with the gypsy who gave him the curse, and some more stuff happens, and then nobody learns their lesson.
It all always ends badly, right? You can't make deals with the devil or whatever it is.
Oh, speaking of, have you read Meaningful Things?
No.
That was
Is that another Stephen King?
Yeah, that was another Stephen King.
Is that a deal with the devil deal?
That was like, I don't know, I've never seen Little Shop of Horrors, so I don't know if that's the premise.
Seymour,
Feed
me, Seymour.
But the idea that like there's this weird person running this antique shop, and then he'll give you like the perfect item that you need for whatever it is, and then all you need to do is like do him a small favor, right? And then it turns out with the small favor, they're like all the favors that they do are really like super innocuous, with
Right.
the exception of a couple, I think. But like they're just like perfect in such ways that they start like really deteriorating the relationships and people in the town. Like everything goes to heck, and it's a good one. But yeah, that was I think another devilish one.
Is it like the things that you're doing are relatively innocent, but there's like some sort of grand plan to make it so that it all
Yeah.
falls apart?
Yeah, like you just like
I need you to take this letter over to this person at 3:15.
you take someone's hat, and then it means that I don't know.
They have to cross the street.
It starts a fight with a stranger because stuff happens. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've read it, but it was spoofed on Rick and Morty. I liked it a lot. They did an episode, basically the same plot, but Rick and Morty.
I never watched Rick and Morty. Actually, I watched one episode and I was like, oh, I can't keep up.
I like it. It was good. I don't know. It's a weird fan base, but it's a good show. I have tendonitis in my right elbow.
That sucks.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
How'd you get that? Did you forget the tap?
No,
Did you snap instead of tap?
I don't think so. Maybe. Oh, I thought of replacement words for our conversation on Friday.
What's that?
Instead of masculine and feminine, so we gotta take the gendery things out of it, right?
Yeah.
But I still want to keep this like the whole yin and yang aspect to it.
Okay.
So I think the perfect
Yin
words,
and yang.
sub and dom.
What is it?
Sub and dom.
I don't. I give up.
I think it's non-gendered, and it pretty much encapsulates the same ideas that I was trying to go for, right? But it's gender neutral.
It reminds me of the joke, where the masochist, what did the masochist say to the sadist?
Hurt me.
And the other one says no.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know, I like the terms grindy and flowy.
Grindy.
Grindy and flowy. And then if it's a little mixture of both, it's either frindy or growy,
Growy.
right? Because I think like Rafa Mendes can be very growy,
Yes.
right? I mean, he can be exceptionally grindy, or he can be exceptionally flowy, right?
I feel like with guys like Rafa and the Mendez brothers, and top elite, they could find any point on the spectrum and be at that point. They could be as grindy as they want. They
Yeah.
could be maximally grindy, maximally flowy, and at any point they choose to be on that spectrum, they could be there.
Well, I mean, when you see them with each other, they're almost always like in this kind of death grip lock.
With Mendez brother on Mendez brother?
No, and like let's say it's Rafa versus, Cobrinha.
Mm.
I think those things, they just roll around like a ball of cats, right? Like they're just,
Yeah.
it's this constant, that was such a great matchup, just a great rivalry, because it wasn't like they jump out and then just go right to 50-50,
Yeah.
right? Like a lot of these guys, their first priority is like, let me just get you in 50-50,
Yeah.
right? And I'm sure that didn't happen with them, but my recollection of their matches was always, it was just this war back and forth, So much fun to watch. They really wanted to submit each other,
Grindy. I don't know.
Grindy and flowy. There are definitely people that are more flowy than grindy,
Yeah.
or you have people that are more kind of like stally and goey, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say like grindy and flowy to me seems like you're trying to say stocky and goey.
Kind of, yeah.
Where
Like some people really want to move, they don't want to get caught up
Yeah.
in some sort of positional, trench warfare. They want to I need to get to your back. I want to, they're not interested in.
or like some people play where like they almost need you to move in order to do anything themselves. I think that would be like closer to the flowy end of the spectrum.
Right.
Right? Where like your jiu-jitsu is completely dependent on the other person being the aggressor or the assertive one. Like, yeah, being more reactive or responsive.
You can have be more reactive. Like there's more proactive and reactive,
Yeah.
right? Like there's definitely.
Proactive, reactive. That's a good one. I like that. But it's still like both of those are active.
Well,
Doesn't-
I can be reactive and.
But it's still active.
Well, yes, the base of the word is still active, but what I'm thinking is, right, I can be reactive in a very dynamic way, and I can be reactive in a very static way, right? So, yeah.
I feel like if my reaction is to do nothing, I'm not reacting.
Well, you have to react to some extent, or else the person's going to do whatever they want to do. So there is a decision, right, of,
Yeah.
now you can pick your point, right? Like I can be totally passive and static and let the person mount me, right?
Could you be aggressively static?
Like that kind of stiffness?
Yeah.
I think so. You have some people that are like, and that can be top or bottom, where the person is just so, so almost stiff, and they don't want to move at all. They're not even trying to pass your guard so much. They're just kind of like,
Locking you down.
they're just kind of like on top of you,
Yeah. Is that proactive though? That doesn't seem
Well, I mean, proactive to me is like another kind of, I mean, maybe aggressive is not the right word, but if I'm being proactive, it means I'm initiating action.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, so we're, whatever we are,
Yeah.
right? Whatever moment we're at, I'm attacking.
I usually,
Or I'm doing something, right? And whether it means like, okay, you took me down, I'm trying to get back up to my feet. Or, you know, like anything that it is, it's like I'm trying to set the pace. Like
Yeah,
I'm trying to
setting the
push,
pace.
I'm trying to push the action constantly.
I like to think of it as you create the choices that the other person
Yeah,
can make.
it's like, okay, I'm just gonna go. Like we talk about, you know, there's this match this weekend with Roberto Jimenez and Gordon Ryan. And
Wait, it already happened?
no, it's coming up this weekend. And you know, Roberto Jimenez is like a really proactive guy. He goes and gets after. He's very aggressive. You know, Gordon, I always think of as more of a counter player.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's kind of hard to kind of characterize him because he does a lot of things so well.
Yeah.
But he's not the type that's, I mean, will he go out and like, he absolutely can. Like they all, I think like you're right, they all can do it. If you said like, if you said you gave them a game plan and said you need to be proactive in this match,
Yeah.
they will go out and be proactive.
Yeah.
They can totally do it. That may not be their comfort level or may not be always what they choose to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Gordon Ryan can go out and like be super aggressive,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it'd be weird if he couldn't, I think. But
I think some people, like, I think of like Lucas Lepre and Jake McKenzie. Like Jake McKenzie's really good. You don't know who Jake McKenzie is, but
I just think of Slurms McKenzie when
I
you
don't
say
know who that is.
So
I don't know who Slurms McKenzie is. Wait a minute. But you know, it's you know, Jacob McKenzie would go out and kind of pull guard and you know get him in a reverse, you know, deep reverse half guard, you know, and then just kind of try to work from this very, you know, from this bottom position. You know, that's his game plan. That's what he does almost in every match, unless he's much better than his opponent.
yeah. That's good.
But you know, he's also going up against Lucas Lepre, who is a very aggressive guy who's not sitting back and waiting for much of anything to happen.
Isn't Lucas also, am I thinking of someone else, a deep half player?
No, you're thinking of Lucas Lech. So many Lucases, I get them all mixed up too.
Nice. I don't even know who Lucas Lech is.
He's a Czech mat guy. He's like a middleweight who's super strong, and he competed at heavyweight, and he would give people just absolute fits. He's, you know,
Yeah.
he's as strong as any kind of heavyweight, not as dynamic, but little.
Yeah.
So, you know, trying to control him
Especially like
is
if
tough.
he plays a deep half. Deep half can be
He would do deep half, and then he'd come up on what he called the coyote guard, which is just really dogfight, right? And he would take people's backs, and he was really good at that. I mean, he won. I think he won. I forget if he won the worlds at heavyweight. I don't think he ever won. I think he medaled. I could be wrong, but you know,
I did something similar today for the first time. Like deep half.
you won worlds at middleweight.
No.
Good job, Rob.
I did a deep half into like the dogfight position.
Yeah, so this is something that Ryan Hall talks about, Lucas Lech talks about, where, and Jake McKenzie too, they talk about getting into deep half as a way when somebody blocks you off from going into half guard, right? So if you go into half, you're trying to make that underhook, and the person's stuffing you and they're not letting, then they sweep into deep half and they're going for the back, and then what happens is, you know, as they block you from going underneath to the back, then they're going to come back up into the half guard. So it's that kind of like pendulum movement underneath the person. I already did that. Okay.
Has there been any movement towards the Gordon Galvao?
I haven't heard. I'm sure he's going to talk some crazy shit at the end of this, or during the middle of it, or who knows what. Because Atos is going to be right there, and I bet you Andre's going to be. There'll be a fight. I bet you there's going to be a fight. There'll be some. It's going to be a jiu-jitsu fight though. There's going to be a lot of pushing and mean looks and mean mugging. No punches will actually be thrown.
Nah. You think Andre will fight?
No.
Maybe.
I mean, if you get up and close enough to his, I mean, if you try to punch him, I'm sure he'll crack you.
They did. There was that. Oh, what's it called? I think it was Worlds something, where all those that steroids guy was memeing.
Which one?
The one.
You're gonna have to be more specific.
The guy who was specifically making fun of the Atos people and making allegations at the event, and he started like photographing people, and then I forget who it was, but it was like Hulk or someone big and angry, started like grabbing people's phones and like trying to find out who this person was. So based on that, and Andre does have Andre has a history of storming mats, right? So maybe there's a level of, I wouldn't say a lack of emotional control, but he's been there, like he can get heated, and he can act in not aggression, but in passion. So if
he seems like such a nice person. I have to say, like Andre Galvao seems like a legitimate, like maybe just his smile is fooling me, but he seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he.
I mean, I would never want to make him angry, which means is another way for me of saying like I never want to make anybody really angry, except for you sometimes when I'm trolling you. But definitely the person who's always nice, always in a good mood, and who is yoked, like Andre Galvao.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he would behave like that unless he was actively like standing up for his student.
Oh yeah, he's defending the student. Yeah.
So I don't know about like a provocation to his ego if that would start a fight, but I bet if you mess with his student,
that's probably true.
That would be a bad idea.
That's true.
I don't know.
I think there's a potential for things to get a little ugly.
I don't know though. Like both camps, Gordon Ryan he says a lot of stuff, but I don't think he's not like wild. You know, he's not.
He actually is not even when he is provoked, he's actually not disrespectful.
That's not true either. But
well, I'm thinking specifically of the situation with Cyborg, where Cyborg was like basically hitting him at Nogi Worlds, and you know Gordon he eventually got DQ'd, but Gordon I mean wasn't like upset and lose his composure.
Yeah.
And I was impressed by
what
that.
was Cyborg hitting him? Was
well,
Gordon saying things?
Yeah, Gordon beforehand was essentially saying to everybody, you know, guys don't even show up. I'm the best. I'm gonna win everything. You guys are old. Stay home. Whatever. This you know.
Yeah.
This is I'm your daddy. You know, like I don't know all the stuff he said, but essentially, Cyborg took exception.
Yeah.
And you know, look, this is the thing. I think at the end of it, Cyborg, like at the middle of the match, Cyborg realized he wasn't going to be able to beat or pass.
Yeah.
Because it didn't like he just come out and just hit him, right? He was like trying to do jiu-jitsu for, you know, 5 or 6 minutes. And then once it became apparent that he was kind of outclassed, that's when he started really hitting Gordon Ryan.
Yeah.
Gordon Ryan never like made any kind of, even to the ref to be like, what the, he just kept going with this match. And I mean, I think he would have been, sometimes you see this in wrestling, it happens a lot. But you see guys who do like one heavy, you know, collar tie where they club him.
Yeah.
And then the other person clubs that guy back. And the other guy clubs him twice as hard, and then it's a fist fight. You know? And then like everybody swarms the mat. Damn. I think that could happen.
Oh, did you see the Oklahoma University bathroom bar fight?
No.
It is amazing. So there's like, all right, fighting's not good, but if it were, this would be like, oh, so good. Because it was like a couple of guys, like 4 guys in a bathroom. The one guy already has blood on his face from the other guy.
You know, these Oklahoma State students, Cowboys?
Yeah, 2 football players, I guess.
Ooh, okay.
Followed, or the video starts in a bathroom with the confrontation taking place. The shorter guy already has his nose bloody, and the guy is like saying what I would call provocative things, but you know it's arguable. And then the shorter guy like wipes his nose, wipes it on the guy's face, right hook, or right, yeah, I think it was a hook, maybe a cross, and just like, whoa, the guy, and it was a solid fight. It was
Who won? Was there a winner? Everyone loses in a. Who won? Was there? Did the football players win or did they lose?
The football players lost almost.
Was it 2-on-2?
It's 2-on-2. No one jumped in, which is nice. It's really nice. But I guess the guy who, the taller one, I think, almost lost an eye and is now taking a year off.
Huh?
He's like taking a year off now from stuff. Like,
From life because he doesn't have an eye?
Well, he did put it back in, I guess, but yeah. Yeah, it turned out the two guys were like, they just trained, they did MMA. And it was just, yeah, wrong people. This is really bad. And it sucks for the guy, because he didn't, I mean, I didn't see the...
Who started? Do you have a sense of who started the fight?
The guy who threw the first punch in the video already had his nose bloody.
Okay, so he had been hit at some point. We don't know. Did anybody go to jail?
I forget.
That's a serious injury, man. You lose an eye.
It's pretty bad. But I don't know.
Never underestimate your opponent. Just because you're the big bad football player and you got your boy with you, don't underestimate
It was crazy.
anybody.
It was crazy. Like one guy got his head smashed into the wall, like really, really bad, and he wasn't even the one who lost his eye. I don't think he didn't. I mean, the other guy didn't lose his eye, but
He got his ass beat pretty hard.
like he got choked. I didn't see the end of it, but he got punched a lot. He got his head slammed to the ground. He got choked.
Dude, bathrooms are
Oh yeah, and the bathroom's gross. It was like a college bar bathroom, like Saturday night.
They probably could get hepatitis or
Yeah.
something else. That's
Gross.
Oh
But
man.
yeah, it was pretty good jiu-jitsu though. I mean,
Give peace a chance. Oh, well, there was jiu-jitsu involved because they're MMA fighters.
yeah, like some good takedowns, good mounting. The back take was in it, but it did the job.
They choke him to sleep at the end, or what'd they do?
I think the guy was just
Pounding on him.
well, the football player was like trying to punch the guy, but like it wasn't.
I tell you what, putting someone to sleep is the nicest thing you can do to somebody in order to finish a fight. You know, like you don't have to be that nice. You know, you don't have to be that nice. You can really hurt somebody.
Cops don't like that.
Well,
Even
you're not
if-
going to be able to testify because you're probably not going to remember anything
Even
by
if
the time
you're-
they show up.
Even if you're in the right, probably don't choke people.
I don't know. You know, like
there's.
I remember I had had a friend of mine, Alex, and he got into a fight at a club. And Alex was like maybe a little bit shorter than you, but he wrecked some dude who was a lot bigger than him. Alex trained.
Yeah.
I know him from jiu-jitsu. And he just wrecks this guy. He was a big dude. And, he's there with his girlfriend. He wrecks a dude. He walks out. And there's police in Miami. Often these clubs, the security is off-duty cops.
Yeah.
So he goes outside with his girlfriend. And, the bouncers basically take him outside. They're pretty nice because he wasn't messing with them. He wasn't even drunk. He wasn't even drinking. He was totally sober, which gives you an advantage. And then as he's coming out, the big dude's like trying to get to him, right? He's coming back. He came back, woke up, came out, was trying to get into the fight. And the cop basically was like, stop me. It was like, this dude's going to kill you, right? He was all fucked up.
Yeah.
And he basically let Alex go
Yeah.
and stop the dude, which I thought was interesting. He didn't arrest them both or, they don't care. Like, they're just like, get out of here.
Well, if you're off duty and you're doing security, you could arrest people, I guess, but that's not why you're there.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, when I worked as a bouncer, I put some people out.
That's the nice way. That's
It was
nicer than
still-
bouncing their head off the ground and
it
give them a
was still-
concussion.
Not the legal thing to do. Right? It was. I agree. I think it was the nicest thing that could have happened to them given the circumstances. But every time it happened, my boss was like, "You shouldn't do that," and I was like, "He shouldn't have tried to hit that other guy." Usually, my trigger was always if they tried to punch one of my coworkers.
That was it. They're going to
That's
sleep.
it.
Nap time.
That's it. Or like if I'm
They call you
escorting out.
they call you Dr. Sleep, or they call you
No.
what's the other one? The Sandman. That should be your nickname,
Yeah, I
Sandman.
hope I didn't have a nickname. Probably not. No, it wasn't too many times, but I don't know. Some people, man, don't like being told no.
Well, yeah.
But it's fine. What's funny though is when you're putting them to sleep and they tap. I don't know.
Like they know?
Well, it's like, bro, like.
No, that's not. We're past that
It's not
point.
the time and place for that. Like, we're not.
There's no mat. There's no ref.
Like, I'm doing this for a reason.
Reset.
Oh well. It's fine.
It's an interesting question of legality.
It's
I don't know the rules.
I'm fairly familiar. They view it as like more close to lethal than like other.
Yeah, that's my question. I mean, and I wonder, there's different settings, right? Like if I'm a belligerent drunk and, I'm like just attacking people in your bar or whatever, right? Like putting me to sleep is a different thing than maybe if, I bump you in the street and you're like, you're going to sleep for that, or we just have like
I think if you
a little pushing match or something on a basketball court and you put me to sleep, or you know what I mean? Like,
I think in any of those situations, if the person went to the cops and was like, "Yo, this guy choked me until I like passed out.
yeah,
I was scared for my life."
no.
You're gonna get arrested. Doesn't matter. Who that
will you
guy is.
though?
They're gonna bring you in. No one's gonna be like, "Oh, you just choked him out a little." Like, "Oh, what do you mean? It's safe." "Oh yeah, okay." Well, like in the news right now. The news a couple months ago, the whole George Floyd, that was his name.
Well, they like put so that's different, right? Like this is a good example, right? Like, so the police, there used to be this LA way back in the day where they had the chokehold case, and I forget the name of the guy, but they, the chokeholds that they were using were like straight.
Yeah.
They were like a guillotine from behind, like the really nasty, straight, the blade of the forearm across. I mean, these guys are fighting hard, so, your average person doesn't train, doesn't have any idea other than maybe a little bit of pain of what's happening. So, they killed, I think they either killed or really hurt somebody. Doing that, and so that got banned.
Yeah.
And I think when people think of rear naked chokes, they just kind of automatically associate the two things as being the same, or equate the two things equally, right? I guess that's what equate means. But there is a substantive difference. There's a qualitative difference between the two things.
Yeah, we know that though.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying. But so, like a police officer who puts their knee down on you, on the back of your neck, right? Like, so that officer is essentially, I'm sure they learned that technique somewhere. The way that they're learning this is that, hey, you can put a lot of weight on the back of somebody's neck and keep them immobilized, and you're not actually directly attacking their trachea, so they should be okay, right? Like that's the theory behind it. Now, police officers are judged by a different standard than your average person on the street. They have something that's called qualified immunity, so there has to be like a clear ruling.
I thought that was just for civil stuff.
Well, no, it's look, if they're not criminally charged by the DA, or you could be criminally charged by the DA, but the DA is going to take a similar analysis. I don't actually know. I'm trying to think if I know of any qualified immunity cases in a criminal case. But a police officer would certainly be able to defend themselves in a criminal case by saying, hey, this was consistent with the training I received from my department or at the academy or wherever. Yeah. Right? And no one, we've done this for years. Now as if they did like an LA chokehold, then that guy wouldn't be entitled to qualified immunity and probably would get criminally prosecuted for, manslaughter or whatever it was.
Maybe you're talking about it would be okay if this individual did a trained rear naked choke that was carotid only.
Well, this is the question. Right now, a lot of police officers are getting training in jiu-jitsu. It's becoming more prevalent. In response to these, like George Floyd situations, right, where they do something and kill somebody, even if they didn't, mean it. And so the question becomes, like, oh, are these guys getting trained in rear naked chokes? Are they allowed to use them in the street? Are the courts, are the prosecutor's going to be able to differentiate between, you know, this straight and, you know, the elbow in, right, where it's just on the neck. And you can still mess somebody up with a rear naked, you know, you can torque it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting question to me, you know, from a legal perspective of, you know, to me it's kind of the difference if I'm, you know, if I have a weapon of some sort that is generally considered to just be a lethal weapon, but it's modified in some way to no longer be as lethal, right? You know, you can imagine a taser that like delivers an amazing jolt of energy to somebody and would kill them, right? You could, right? I could just hook it up to a generator and like, or have a big battery or something and just shock you. Or I can make it even less, so it's just a tingle. You know, it's still the same piece of equipment. We've modified it. So I don't know what, you know, if I had a client who was a bouncer and they put somebody to sleep, you could bet I would argue that it's not.
But you
it's
can't.
not a lethal, especially because you are trained, right? Because you know what you're doing.
Have there been any instances where a person who received a correct rear naked choke ended up dying? I can think of one.
I mean, this guy in Russia or something, right?
I can think of the guy who's.
I mean, I mean, there are people who die in, you know, football practices, you know, doing sprints and.
Yeah, and you don't tackle people on the street, you know.
Well, my point is just that, well, from a civil perspective, right, there's something, and this is going to vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, there's something called the eggshell plaintiff rule, which essentially means if I'm, let's say, for example, I have a really thin skull, I have a genetic condition, and maybe my bones are fragile, my skull is fragile, whatever, and we get into an argument, and you push me, and I fall down, and I crack my skull open, and I die, or I get a concussion, or whatever it is, and you say,
you should have told me before we
well,
got to this.
you know, but even then, you could just say like, look, I just barely touched him. I didn't really hit him. He, you know, he fell down, and you would still be responsible.
Yeah.
Because you have to assume when you get into these things, into these like altercations, that the other person may not be able to withstand even the you know, a little bit of force.
Yeah.
So you would still be civilly liable for, you know.
Yeah, I bring you back to the bar fight. That is what I didn't look at was what happened to the kid who was the winner of the fight. Like, was he arrested? Was he sued? I think he was arrested.
Probably was, or he probably was sued.
But
yeah,
like,
I'll bet you he was sued. There was a D1 football player.
I don't think he's D1.
Well, Oklahoma State is
It's OU.
Oklahoma University is a D1 school. That's an elite program.
Okay.
Oklahoma is like one of the best programs in the country.
I got the vibe that it wasn't the top program, but
I mean, there's
look,
an individual.
There's
Alabama, there's Auburn, there's, you know, like, I don't know, I can't keep track of it. But OU is like a legit Big 12.
It was OU. Yeah.
Yeah. They're the Sooners.
Sooners.
The Sooners, like the.
Rather than theirs.
Yeah, no, that's the other thing that people don't also follow up on is, you know, there's criminal liability and then there's civil liability, and that guy is definitely going to sue.
Yeah.
And it depends on your like there are different states have different negligence regimes. So some have like comparative, some have what's the other word? There's comparative, and then there's
contrastive.
I forget what the other one is, but one is a contributory. So one is essentially like if it's comparative and I'm 50, like I started the fight.
Yeah.
Right? I'm 50% responsible, and then you murdered me, right? Or whatever, you beat the living hell out of me.
Yeah.
So you would only be responsible for like 50% of my damages.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of like that idea. I might be messing that up. And then the contributory is that if I contributed all to the accident, then I'm out of luck.
Yeah.
Right? You can't contribute to your own. You can't collect for something that you're responsible for in whole or in part.
It's weird with a fight though. Like, how do you assign responsibility to a fight?
Well,
like, is it the person who threw the first punch? Is it the person who followed the guy into the bathroom? Is it the person who said the first shitty thing at the bar?
there's, you know, like you see this sometimes in self-defense, in criminal self-defense cases, and I'll bring it back to the civil cases. So, you know, like I'm only allowed to use as much force as is necessary given the situation, right? So if you say, Rich, I'm gonna beat you up, I can't pull my gun and shoot you. Right? Even though I don't want to get beat up, right? You're not threatening to kill me.
Yeah.
If at some point I thought let's say you started beating me up, and then I was like, okay, I give up, and you just keep pounding me, keep pounding me, like you're not stopping. And I feel like at some point, even though you're just hitting me, because you're not stopping, right? Now I've become legitimately afraid for my life.
Yeah.
Then if I have a gun or a knife, I can, right? Or if I'm a bystander, if there's no better way for me to stop you, then maybe then I can use lethal force to stop what I think is going to be fatal, right? To me, right? But these things, sometimes they play out. It's not just like this instantaneous situation where it's just like all heat of the moment. There might be particular episodes within a larger situation, right? So like, let's say you and I get into like a little bit of a scuffle, and maybe you beat me up, right? And then we end, right? And then one of my buddies decides to come and chase after you, right? Whatever. And then you guys get into a fight. And then you come back and whip my ass some more because you're pissed off that I sent my boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now you're really pissed off and you start, maybe we look at each one of those. The thing with the kid in Wisconsin, what was his name? Or Minneapolis?
Kyle Rittenauer?
Yeah, Rittenauer. He had a bunch of different things over the course of the night. It wasn't like one thing happened. He had like 2 or 3 altercations with a bunch of different people. And then at the end and then they all started chasing him. And that's, then he turned around and started firing at them. So, you look at each one of these things, and I think it's similar with a fight, right? Like if we start off just like pushing each other, fine, whatever. But it can escalate into something more serious, right?
Yeah.
So you can kind of look at, right? Like let's say the other thing that happens is like you neutralize the threat. Let's say you I slap you, right? I started the fight. I slap you in the face. And you take me down and you put me on the ground. So I'm no longer a threat to you. But then you just keep hitting me, right? So the first half of that fight where I instigated it, I wouldn't say anybody would probably blame you for taking the fight down to the ground and neutralizing me. But after that point where I was no longer a threat to you and you keep hitting me, well now that's you, right? Because I'm no longer fighting. I'm just sitting there being.
But just because you're no longer fighting doesn't mean you're no longer a threat.
That's true, but you can only do so what's the least amount of force necessary to neutralize that threat? It isn't beat the shit out of me, right? The least amount of force is like the least amount that you need to stop me from hitting you.
But it's not just the least amount to get you to stop hitting you, it's the least amount of force you need to make this person understand that you shouldn't ever be messed with again.
Well, that's different now that you've crossed the line. They don't look at it that way. Right? They don't look at it.
I feel like
I'm going to teach this guy a lesson.
You don't got to go too far past that line, but like.
Well, you got to be careful.
You don't want to be too restrictive.
There's probably, look, we can talk about it in theory, but in practice, there's probably a little bit of a gray area that you could go into and say, like, I'm going to teach a lesson, but you got to be careful because sometimes you're going to get yourself in trouble if you go too far down that path.
I wouldn't call it teaching a lesson.
You just said teach a lesson.
That's not the best way to put it.
Maybe I said it, I can't remember. But you know what I mean? Like, I don't disagree, but like, there's teaching a lesson. There's like that homeless guy, or not homeless guy, but the guy who didn't like the weed that his drug dealer gave him. And so he went and complained. And then he tried to hit his drug dealer with the bike lock. And the drug dealer and his friends like basically put the guy into a coma.
Yeah.
Right? That's teaching him a lesson, right? We're going to show everybody that you're not allowed to come over here and disrespect us.
If he's in a coma though, he can't learn lessons.
Kids can't remember.
Yeah.
Well, I think they went a little overboard, I would say.
Yeah.
So, the lesson teaching is where you're going to get yourself in trouble.
I still want to go away from the idea of teaching them a lesson.
Whatever. You're giving them the example of like they're never going to do this again. That's teaching them a lesson. That's deterring future bad conduct as opposed to neutralizing the current threat.
I just think it should be more. It's doing a job well. Right? It's not. You don't want to half-ass the job. If you're gonna beat someone up, like you should beat them up.
All right. Well, you know what? You tell that to the judge. That could be your defense. Good luck.
But like. If
but you are hurting. Like that's the thing. If you can do it without hurting them, like injuring them, then fine. But if you're going to go overboard and like actually physically injure them beyond the need to restrain them, then you're going to get in trouble.
Yeah, avoid permanent injury.
Any injury.
But I wouldn't.
You can't give them purple nurples, right? Like any of that would be torture.
I think.
Oh, and this is the other thing. In California, they will charge you with these crazy laws on, like they'll charge you with torture, mayhem. I'm not making this stuff up. Confinement. They will throw everything at you, right? Because they don't care, right? They're not trying to make the laws are so broadly applied. I was actually shocked. I mean, I'm from New York, where the laws are pretty broad too, but California criminal laws are broadly construed. So you will get, I had a couple of cases when I was at the public defender's office volunteering, where, these are simple assaults, just simple run-of-the-mill assaults that nobody would be surprised to see in the street. And these guys were charged, basically with like the most serious felonies. And it's all basically, they can be, they're legitimately charged, but it essentially gets them to plead down to, something lesser, but you're on the hook for, these charges will stick. They've been argued, the overbreath
if you're willing to
up
fight,
to the Supreme Court.
If you're willing to fight, you should be willing to take a charge.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, right? When you talk about, I agree with you. But like here, so you really know the consequences.
Yeah.
The consequences are that you go to jail for 10 years.
10 years?
That's the consequence.
For a fight?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Like, or more. If that person, like I said, if you get into a fight and that person something really bad happens to that person, right? Like they get seriously injured.
Yeah.
You're going to go to jail for a long time.
Yeah.
And if something bad happens to them, they'll sue you civilly.
Yeah.
And even just getting charged and getting sued in and of itself is expensive. It looks terrible, right? It's.
Yeah. So don't permanently injure anyone. Never fight on concrete. The thing I didn't like about the bathroom fight was that it happened on tile. It happened in a place where the guy almost lost an eye, but he could have died. That happens. I've seen so many videos online of
just don't fight.
Guys getting hit and they go down and their head hits and they're just done now. And
I don't know. I think that things have changed. I grew up. You couldn't. When I remember as a kid, I always thought like, oh, well, I'm not 18. I can get away with pretty much anything. What's the worst they're going to do? This was before they had charging kids as adults. Was really prevalent, and things have changed now. The laws are much stricter, a lot less tolerant.
Bars are a special place though, where it's still I think bars are the last place where it's not acceptable to fight, but it's kind of expected.
It
would have to be a crazy fight for cops to get called in most cases.
Well, you guys don't, because it would be bad for your business.
Exactly.
Right?
So it's part of the culture. It's part of the overall.
Well, the thing is like.
So you can't expect people to not fight you at bar because they will.
Yes.
They totally will.
Yes, I agree.
So
you should be nice and not start fights.
Be ready.
Look. There's a lot of examples of people who go get into fights, whatever, and everything's fine.
Yeah.
And then there's examples of people who get into fights and get stabbed, or shot, or beat down.
I knew a guy who got into a fight, ended up knee barring the guy and broke his leg.
Yeah, did he get sued?
Yeah, he did do time, I think.
Yeah.
Or no, it wasn't even that. He hit the guy and the guy tripped and hurt.
Yep, that's the eggshell plaintiff.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't. Oh, I didn't see that he was. You're in a bar. This could happen. It's foreseeable. So I don't know. I say
he also trained, so they threw the book out.
Really? They you knew what you were doing.
MMA, you should know better. You should know.
Sounds like he needed a better lawyer.
Yeah, probably. But Southern Indiana, what can you do?
I'm telling you, these prosecutors, they're not trying to be. The thing is, they're not trying to be nice. They're not trying to be reasonable. They're trying to get a conviction. That's their job.
Yeah.
But unless you know them or you're connected, you're going to get the book thrown at you.
But my point, I think, is from a self-defense perspective, whatever that means. Where the idea that you need to finish the fight comes from the idea that there could be another person waiting to soccer kick you in the head.
Or not.
But they're in a bar fight especially. There have been times when I was bouncing where I had a person on top of me and then I had to deal with it while dealing with another person. At the same time. So get this guy out, deal with this guy.
Yeah.
If I was nice to this person,
Well, look, you had a awareness of the situation. I think as a bouncer, you're dealing with very aggressive people. I think you would probably get a little more leeway
I think the issue
than
is also,
an average person would.
The issue is also I'm not doing it to hurt the person. I'm
Right.
doing it for
Professional.
instance, like for a bigger purpose,
Right.
right? Like I'm
You're
trying
keeping
to
the
keep myself
peace.
safe. I'm trying to do my job. I'm not just like malevolently taking out my aggression on this person because they didn't do what I want. Versus like the idea, I think, of teaching a person a lesson is a very personal thing. And I don't know, that makes me feel icky, I guess.
Well, I mean, look, let's step back for a moment, because what you're engaged in is not a self-defense situation per se. What you are is security,
Yeah.
right? And so as a business owner, I have the right to ask anyone in my business to leave, right? That's my right. I mean, up to a certain point, right? I can't just be like racist about it or whatever, but so, you know, you guys are in a position as bouncers that I'm kind of deputizing you to like escort this person out the door. They're trespassing on my property.
That sounds cool.
And so if they're going to resist, you have every right to use the right of measure of force to get them out. But it's only up to that point,
Yeah.
right? So crossing that line is something you have to be careful about.
Well,
It's not the same thing as a self-defense situation where I'm going to have a fight because you offended me or
That's
something.
not a self-defense situation.
Well, it's a fight situation. Well, it could be a self-defense situation. Like at some point
Like if
in
you were the
that
one
bar
to-
fight, it turned into a self-defense situation.
Yeah. I
You know, that's what I mean.
The point.
At some point, it stopped being a fun little bar fight
Yeah.
and got into like, I'm going to lose my eye.
Well, when it was like, well, yeah, that. But for in
It
my example,
escalated.
It was like I was in a flower bed with two guys on top. Like it got beyond the point.
And
of my
do you have
control.
backup, or do you have other people working?
Yeah, we have other security guys, but like it was a big fight. So it was just like choking people.
Right.
And just like trying to get things back under control because I just don't know how else to do it. And I don't like punching people in the face.
No, hurt your hands.
But
And it gets a lot of blood everywhere.
it would have been a good opportunity. But I don't know.
I think it's, you know, when you talk about punching people in the face, I think it's really tough because you can really hurt somebody, right? I mean, you can break their teeth, you can break their nose,
More importantly, you
your
break
hands, you can hurt yourself, and then you can't work.
My old instructor at the Middlewater used to say, like, hitting a person with your fists is like picking up an expensive microscope and doing something with it.
It's true.
Like, yeah,
These little hands are not meant for striking
like, you
hard
can,
surfaces.
You can do it, but it'll get the job
It
done.
sucks having a broken hand, let me tell you.
Microscopes are heavy, and it'll work.
It'll work.
It'll work.
Actually, I think the microscope would be better off than your hand.
Probably.
I mean, if you hit somebody with the base of a microscope.
With like, yeah, a not great microscope. But yeah, like, hands are expensive if you mess them up. There's a lot of little bones in
There
there.
are some people who you can see their hands and they are made for hitting people.
Yeah.
You see these guys
Like
and they
those-
have these hands that
Those
are like,
old Okinawan, like, karate fighters.
man,
like,
some of these guys,
they just have
these are like,
one
these are
big knuckle.
little girl hands really here. These are for writing, for delicate like sewing and, you know, fine work here. This is like a surgeon's hands right here.
When I was a kid, the epitome of like martial arts training was just like sitting
Iron
in
claw and the sand pit, the hot sand.
Like not boiling, hot.
Hot sand, right?
Yeah, hot sand, hot rocks. Just like that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to mess up my hands for life.
Get all the scars and like your bones all fused together.
And luckily, I found
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu, and it did pretty much the same thing.
Eh.
Not the same, but like instead of these knuckles, we just wreck these two because we don't punch it.
Yeah.
But it's all the grip. I don't have arthritis yet. I just got knobbly elder wand fingers.
Yeah, I don't have hand arthritis yet.
Yeah. Knock on whatever.
It's alright, I don't really insist on gripping. Like I'm not like a gripper, like some people are like grippers.
That's not true in my experience. You have the strongest grips of anyone.
That's not true, but I don't hold on to grips like you see some people who like loop things in, like you have to rip them off.
Yeah.
I will let go of a grip. Like if you are doing the proper grip defense or grip break,
So
I will let go of the grip.
So that's why you've never let go of a grip when I've rolled with you.
I've always what are you talking about?
No, like this is like a thing. Like I'm speaking honestly. Like you in my head have like
You break their grips all the time.
No, I don't. Like
I don't know what.
I don't.
I think you're thinking of someone else.
I
Because
don't
I'm
think
weak
so.
as a kid.
No, I tell people that like, because you do that thing where you go under the leg when you're defending arm bars,
Mm-hmm.
and in the gi you always do that thing where you wrap the lapel around the leg too,
Yeah, that works well.
and it's
Don't
going
give away my
underneath,
secrets.
and then never know.
That works pretty well. That's a
Yeah.
pretty good grip.
And I
Counter
can
grip.
never.
Yeah, that's why I do it. Yeah, but it's not because I'm so strong. It's because of the weird angle.
No, you said it's because I don't do the grip break right. I guess. Whatever it is, I don't know.
I don't know if there is a
It's
proper
like,
grip
grip is
break.
like behind my ass. Like.
Yeah, because it's weird. It's a weird spot.
Yeah. I'm not.
The key to the grips that I do is not that they're super strong. If I have any kind of like feeling of strength, it's because the angle is the right angle.
Yeah.
Or this placement is a good placement.
Just put it like right behind that spot where they can't reach.
Trying to get, like, who's the other one that I do? You have the lapel grips when I have it. I'll do like a little lapel
Like the worms.
inside the lapel grips.
So we're doing the worms guards.
I can't do worms. My legs don't work that way, especially not with my hip. I do that like baseball bat, like from half guard, and I get it underneath. I like doing that. So don't get into fights. It's stupid
Yeah, I
and
said a lot
dangerous.
of aggressive sounding things that I'll probably regret later.
Don't. There's certain things that I think you should like fight over, right? If someone's really like attacking you or attacking somebody who you care about, like okay, like really attacking. But if they're just like, Kevin, you're a nerd, you're not gonna beat their ass.
Why not?
That's
That's a great way
Kevin,
to
use
make
your
a friend.
words.
That's a
Use your words.
Nobody
Kevin.
cares about what I have to say, right?
Yes, but
if I get into a fight with this person, maybe we'll be able to come to a common ground. Maybe.
we're probably gonna go to jail.
Maybe.
So
I mean, if you think you're going to go to jail, probably don't fight. But like, if you think the guy's cool, maybe give it a shot.
they're only cool until they figure out some way to sue you.
Well, I don't know. Well, the thing is, I agree. Like, don't fight strangers, but
Just your friends.
just your friends. I think
That's why jiu-jitsu is so
that's
awesome.
why jiu-jitsu is so awesome, because like I think that it would be good if people got into fights where like they didn't end up getting stabbed or injured. That would be cool. Like there's, I think an element.
Let's just settle this right now.
Well, honestly, like I feel like there's as kids there's like a slight level of acceptability to it where it's almost like, at least for boys back in the day.
Back in the day.
You know, like I think we've shared stories about how that actually like was a way to make connections.
Yeah.
As a young.
I had a couple friends who I met by getting into a fight with them.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think that has value. I also think that like being able to not get into fights has value, but I think that's only valuable. I'm not saying valuable a lot. I think that's only good when you're able to get into a fight, you know, and that takes getting into fights. Like it's not avoiding the fight isn't enough because anyone can avoid a fight. Like you should know that you can fight and then avoid the fight.
I think that, look, my general advice is like sometimes when you're a little kid, it can be hard to avoid getting into fights, right? You don't have like good judgment. You don't really have a mind for consequences, right? Most of the kids are living in the moment. They're impulsive creatures. They don't have a lot of impulse control. They don't have their brain isn't fully formed yet, right? So the prefrontal cortex is still developing. As you get older, I think getting into fights for fun is seriously problematic.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason why I say this is because, you know what, we can have our little, like within our neighborhoods or within our schools, there's a culture, right? Like I was never in like a really rough area, right? I was in like suburban Pennsylvania. It was very, like in high school, even before I came to Pennsylvania, like the schools were pretty nice, right? When you go to a place, right, like you go to college, you go to a university, there's people coming from all over the state. This was Oklahoma. You know, in Pennsylvania, there are places that are very nice, and there are places that are not very nice. And the kids that are coming from the not very nice places are gonna fight in a very not very nice way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they may be fighting just the way that they've always fought, and I'm fighting the way that I've always fought. But I'm a Chihuahua, and they're a Rottweiler, you know. And so when these two things meet, I may be thinking, oh, it's just like a fight like I'm always into. And that kid's like, yeah, this is a fight like I'm always into. But his fights involve, really hurting people. Whereas my fights are like, hey, we'll be friends after this.
Yeah.
This is not the situation you want to be in.
That sounds like a potential lesson.
Yeah, for you.
Yeah.
That you may be learning in the hospital.
Maybe.
Or, I just don't think it's, I don't think it's wise in the long term, but as an adult,
As an
going
adult,
out
I agree.
and getting into fights.
I agree.
I think if you're looking for that,
After a
I would
certain
avoid
age-
that. I would avoid it.
After a certain age, it's weird.
Yeah, after the age that you can go to prison as an adult, right? When you turn 18, now, sometimes if you're in the military, you can get away with this stuff, right? There's a little more leeway. You're in a military town, you're fighting at a military bar, whatever, you get into a fight.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
The judges some judges will be more lenient because you're in the service, you're a hot-blooded kid, you're in the Marines,
I would've
you're
thought
fighting for your
it
country.
would've been like the other way, where like, hey, you're a representative of our nation.
When you get more senior, you're more of like an officer, kind of, a non-commissioned officer. They might be stricter,
Yeah.
but I think they're going to give you a little bit more leeway in some places, right? Like if you're in San Diego and you're, one of the SEALs, and you get into a young SEAL and you get into it, the judge may take it easy on you because
I'm also speaking from the video was taken in a college town bar, which is one of the places. They're going to be a little bit more.
See, that's the thing that you go.
Depends. But compared to a regular bar, if you went to like downtown, no. Where's the nice place with all the
I don't go
lights?
any bars. I don't go to bars.
Next to the Winchester Mystery House. That place, right? It's nice. There's like professionals who go there, right? If
Yeah.
you got into a fight up there, you'd probably get kicked out and arrested. But if you go to like back in the day, the Spot in Campbell, you get into a fight there. Like that's just a normal Friday night. Like that's just it's
Fair enough.
expected because
Yeah.
it's like younger people, younger crowd.
Right.
The owners are different. It's
Mhm.
just a little different.
Right.
And I agree with you. Like I'm not gonna get into a fight anytime soon.
Hopefully. That's pissed me off.
Probably. But I don't know, especially with the youth, before people get too big and too angry to actually hurt each other, I think like maybe like elementary
Well, that's why
school is
jiu-jitsu
getting
is so
into
good.
fights.
You get into a nice, safe,
Well,
productive.
Jiu-jitsu is nice because like adults are so big that if they were to actually fight, you really hurt each other. So
Yeah.
you gotta soften it up.
Yeah.
But with a 5-year-old, you can let a 5-year-old fight.
Yeah, but they
as
can't
hard
fight
as
anymore,
they
else they'll
want.
get expelled.
But like if you took 2 5-year-olds who like had a problem with each other, and you were like, hey, we're gonna let
5-year-olds
you
don't
fight.
fight problems.
We're gonna
They bite each other.
maybe, but like give them rules, give them
Yeah,
a
you
setting
can't.
to like
You can't
let
do
them
it.
scrap. Why
You can't
not?
do it. It's
Why?
against the law. You go to jail for that.
What?
You can't have like prearranged fights amongst 5-year-olds.
We do it
What's wrong with you?
all the time here.
Listen, but they're not fighting. There's no fighting here.
Okay, so I just tell them that they're
They're
boxing.
jiu-jitsu-y.
Hey, you guys are gonna box now.
Well, no, you
It's
can't
all
do that.
fault.
That's child abuse. You can't do that.
Why is that child abuse? We're
Because
not
they're hitting
forcing
each
the
other.
child to do it. You're like, hey,
Well,
like
kind of
this
you
is
are.
weird.
They don't know. I mean, they're children. They can't consent to like.
Why is
have
forcing a
fight.
child to talk out their problems better?
Because they don't potentially hurt each other.
But what if they don't want to talk? What if
Well, then
they
you just don't let them talk. They're five. They
That,
have no
you
choice.
can't force a child to suppress their emotions like that.
Yes, you can.
This kid wants
Yes, you
to.
can. That's called good
Well,
parenting.
you can, but it's not good for the child.
Yeah, it
You
is,
give-
yeah, it's
give
good for
an
them.
alternative method of communication that is acceptable to both parties, and that's fine.
No, it's not.
If you can't find another kid who wants to fight, then yeah, that's a bad idea. You don't throw Susie in there who's never like had an angry thought in her life. Be like, hey, we need you to help solve this kid's problems. No, it's like if you have another person
Fighting is not the answer.
that you
Kevin.
want to fight,
Fighting is not
and
the
the
answer.
question is, hey, do you want to fight? And the answer is, yeah, I want to fight. Then maybe fighting is the answer.
It's not the answer.
We do jujitsu all the
It's
time.
not fighting.
It's as close as we can get socially to
Yes.
to acceptable fighting.
It's not fighting. It's still not fighting.
Yeah, I agree. MMA isn't fighting.
It's closer.
It's close.
That's a lot closer.
Yeah. I think are bar fights real fights? Because
Yes.
those get broken up.
They're real
I
fights.
think the only real fight can take place on an island between 2 men.
Why 2 men? Why does that have to be men? Could be women. Could be a man and a woman. They could be fighting.
No,
Yeah, they totally could be.
no,
Totally could be.
no. I don't think women can fight.
Uh-oh. Look out. These opinions do not reflect the official opinion of
I'm just kidding.
Samurai Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. All right.
That was a callback to last week's.
I don't know what you're talking about. Bye, guys. See you tomorrow. Only what? 3 more days? 4 more days to Gordon and Jimenez. I
They're
can't
fighting
wait.
on a Thursday.
Maybe it's Friday. It's 4 more days.